we're going to start on time because we've got some great content to share with you today. Thank you for coming to Doers Hired and navigating the new normal with us. We so much appreciate you being here today. If you're able to turn on your screen, that makes things a little happier and cozier for those who are here. So thank you if you're able to do that. We welcome you to do that. My name's Diana Woodbury. I am an Associate Director at the Business Career Services Office at the David Eccles School of Business. I'm so pleased to introduce to you two wonderful people from TTI, which stands for Techtronic Industries, if you're looking them up on Handshake. Tracy Brown, who is a regional manager for TTI, and Jonathan Hokanson, who is an event marketing manager. Now, I don't know if those titles are about to change because TTI is a fast moving company and people that work there tend to get promoted pretty quickly. So stay tuned. We're really appreciative that they've come to talk to us about the interview process specifically because they conduct a lot of interviews. And we really appreciate the fact that they give us feedback on a lot of those interviews as well, too, so that we can help coach students and make sure that they are getting prepped for terrific interviews and terrific offers. So we did some quick math and we're looking at almost 300 interviews a year that Tracy has conducted in the last year. So they're out there and they're seeing it all. So they want to help you be ready to go. While we're doing this, they're going to ask questions. You're going to get to participate. If you have questions during the chat or anything's during the Zoom and anything's unclear, please pop your question in the chat. Feel free to participate and respond. We'd love to have this be a real working session for you. You're also going to get to do some rating. So you will be the judges on some interviews that you'll see that are pre-recorded and give your own feedback. So we hope to make this a fun session. So Tracy, start us off. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Diana, for that nice introduction. Jonathan, if you can go ahead and share your screen. Thanks for those of you who are on video. It's nice to see your faces. So if you haven't heard of TTI before, we'll just introduce ourselves a little bit. So TTI, we are a global company. We are a power tool company, and we specialize in manufacturing, designing, and selling power tools. So you may not have heard of TTI before, but you may have heard of one of our brands. So below you see different brands like Milwaukee, Ryobi, Hoover, Dirt Devil, just to name a few there. And so we really specialize in our leadership development program. But like Diana mentioned, my name is Tracy Brown. I've been a manager for the past 1.5 years with TTI, and I've been with TTI a total of 2.5 years. And then Jonathan Hokanson is my co-manager and my peer who is also on this. And we have tons of experience in resumes as well as interviews, and we're so excited to share that knowledge with you and to talk about it. So we really specialize in a program that emphasizes sales, management, and marketing. Based in that, we also have career potentials in operations, supply chain, HR, really anything that has to do with business, we deal with. So when we're talking about resume scrubs and with internships, this is definitely for a very business mindset. So keep that in mind as we do the interviews and go over the resumes with all of you. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan, who's going to talk a little bit more about resumes.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracy. So in order to land that dream interview with that dream job, regardless of what your major is or what your career interests are, the first most important step is making sure you have a nice polished resume that's professional, because as we all know, first impressions matter. And if you have a negative first impression with a company or a recruiter or hiring manager, generally it's not going to be smooth sailing from there on out. And so the resume is really those first impressions that you make with the employer. So we're going to go over 3 main examples to start off of different types of resumes. And I want each of you to put yourselves in the shoes of a hiring manager, and just assume it like a company like Techtronic Industries, TTI, where you're hiring for a general business position. with maybe emphasis in marketing, management, sales. So as we're looking at these resumes, feel free to put in the chat things that stand out to you. If you were the hiring manager, what would be some things that you like or maybe don't like in each of these resumes? So first off, we're going to start off with Rebecca Ridgid. So Tracy's going to be monitoring the chat here. And as you look at this resume, just enter in the chat a few quick things that stand out to you. If you were a hiring manager looking for someone just in a general business setting, whether it's a marketing job, a sales job, a management job, what are some things that stand out in this particular resume?
All right, I'm looking for those answers in the chat. So when you do have an answer, feel free to type it in and I'll share it with the rest. Everyone's thinking about what it is. When you guys are looking at these resumes, a couple things to keep in mind. How do you like the format? How do you like the actual bullet points on there? How do you like the job titles? Are you looking at length of experience? Maybe different things. So again, what we're looking for is, what do you like about this resume and what do you not like about this resume? All right, so we have a couple of comments in there. So some of it's a little hard to read. The format could be better, but they like how things are standing out. Melissa says that she likes how she highlights some jobs and positions that are very applicable to the business portion she's applying to. That is huge. Format and wording, again, could be a little bit better. 2 squeezes. So I assume there's a lot of information that's kind of squeezed into a small area. Very good. What else? Do we notice anything about the words or within, are they involved in their university? Do they have their contact information? Joe mentions he'd like to see some metrics. Absolutely, that's good feedback. All right, very cool. I'll turn it over to you, Jonathan.
Awesome. So yeah, those were some great pieces of advice of things you like and don't like. There definitely is a lot of information, and this would be kind of considered maybe a little bit crowded of a resume as far as formatting goes. But like was mentioned, some of these job titles are very specific to a general business role. So if we go through here, awesome experience with sales and marketing, and with a lot of business roles and tons of different companies. That's one thing that they're looking for is experience. It doesn't matter so much your degree per se, but a lot of companies want to see that you have some type of sale or some type of experience within the given realm. But that being said, even if you don't have that experience, it's not a deal breaker. As long as you can tailor your specific role that you've had and tailor it to that specific job that you're applying for. And then as we can see, customer service experience, competitor, they were on the university softball team. That's another big thing is employers like ourselves, we love to see students that are involved, and it's great to be a great student, but also we like well-rounded individuals. So it's a great thing to be able to see that, and that you have that competitive nature, because a lot of companies are wanting someone that's a go-getter, that's really going to help their company grow. We have teamwork skills, which is another awesome trait to have and thing to highlight within a resume. Sales skills, so being able to do analysis of sales. And then self-motivated, another thing that's pointed out on the resume. And then lastly, customer service skills. So the question is, if you want to respond here in the chat, based off of this specific resume, if you were a hiring manager for a general business role, do you think this resume would land an interview?
All right, go ahead and put your responses in the chat, either yes or no. All right, the majority of people are saying yes, they would reach out to this candidate.
Awesome. So I definitely agree as well. Yeah, this is definitely a resume that would land an interview. based off of the experience and a lot of those key words within the resume as far as action words, things that they were able to do. They resolved, they analyzed, they attained, they communicated. Those are definitely key words that you want to have in your resume, is those action words, rather than just say, I did this, I did that. We want to know if you managed, if you sold, if you analyzed, whatever those action words are that the specific job that you're applying for is looking for. Make sure to tailor the roles that you had in the past to that specific role. So next up, now that we're done with Rebecca Ridgid's interview, we're going to look at Harry Hart's resume. So similar with that first one, we want to get your opinions and your idea. If you're the hiring manager for sales, marketing, management, just general business role, looking at Harry Hart's resume, what are some things that jump out to you? Maybe some experience that he has that you like. Feel free to enter there in the chat, and Tracy will shout it out for us.
All right, looking for those responses from each of you. So think about that first resume, and also think about this resume. How's the formatting? What type of positions did this person have? What type of action and words are in this? Spacing is inconsistent. Oh, interesting. I'm curious as to where. This comment is, I like how organized it is. The goal is he shows his intentions. Absolutely, they have that goal at the top of it. I know that some employers love this, some employers don't. The trick is tailor it down to 1, maybe 2 sentences of what you're looking for. What else do we like about this resume? Is this person involved? Does it look like they were active during school? GPA is good. Tons of experience involved in school. Definitely involved, right? If you look, they're a varsity baseball captain, right? That means that they were a leader and they were involved in their school, okay? Community service activities. All of these things are great. If we're looking at the job titles, absolutely. So as Jonathan's going through those, he's going to briefly talk about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, again, this is one of the most typical resumes that we like to see, because it's organized. It's not over the top fancy. Some people like being like super artistic with their resumes and making them different colors and having a whole bunch of different things going on with the resume. If we were if you were applying for like an arts position or a graphic design position, those could be considered good things to do. However, with business school settings and most general settings where you're applying for jobs, biggest thing that employers are looking for is, because the people that are hiring and recruiting and doing those interviews, they're obviously a lot of times stressed with time, and they don't have tons of time to try to decipher different resumes. So the more concise, the more organized it can be, the better. And the example of Harry Hart, he did a great job of making sure that it's nice and organized. So pointing out, yeah, I always want to mention what your education is. If you're going to be graduating soon, make sure that you have the expected graduation date there. That definitely helps out employers a lot. But as we can see, relevant studies, marketing, and leadership, regardless of what field you're going into, companies like to see that you have leadership experience, you have academic success. That's another huge thing. We want to know, are you not only a good student, but also, like Tracy mentioned earlier, having that experience and that the extracurricular experience with like varsity baseball and that type of stuff. Internship experience, another great thing. So whether you're about to graduate this coming spring, or if you're not going to be graduating for another year, make sure you get some valuable internship experience and job experience, so that you can, when you're applying for that dream job, that you have that relevant experience that so many employers are looking for. Again, teamwork and leadership are huge things. Sales experience, event planning experience. And then, yeah, the list goes on and on as far as things we could touch on. So then the biggest question from this, if you were the hiring manager, based off of those things we've touched on, would this specific resume land an interview? So feel free to respond yes or no in the chat, and Tracy will give the consensus of what the answer is. before you know it.
Absolutely. Whitney was quick to say yes. Lots of people are saying yes, absolutely. Someone asked the questions, what if someone has a lot of experience? Do they condense into one page or multiple pages? I would say, again, it depends on the company. Most like to see one concise resume right out of college. So include your most recent experience and also your most relevant experience. Do you need to add that you were a custodian at McDonald's? Probably not, right? Do you want to mention that you were a marketing intern at a company? That's something you might want to put in there. So very cool. Another question was, do you as an employer care about things like the date formatting? Technically, it should be your most chronological, so your most recent experience first, and then going through your past experience. So as far as how you format that, no, we don't care. As long as it's easy to read, concise to read, and it's consistent throughout the entire resume, that's okay. If you choose summer 2019 at one point, and then you say January 2021, that's not consistent, right? You want to keep that consistency in there. Go ahead and turn it over to you again, Jonathan.
Awesome. So yeah, like the consensus said, you are all becoming pro hiring managers. So in this instance, yes, we would. This particular resume would land an interview because of that experience. The resume is nice and organized, and then obviously they highlight main points that would apply to the particular job that they were applying for. So then our last example that we're going to go with is Emily Empire. So here we have a resume, and feel free really quickly. Obviously, there's not as much here as the previous one, so feel free to enter in the chat if this particular resume showed up on your desk as a hiring manager. What are some things that would catch your attention or not catch your attention?
All right, opening it back up to the chat. So the first thing I notice is there's a ton of white space, right? There's just a whole lot of emptiness. In fact, I think there's more white space than there are words on this resume. Clara says it's awkward formatting. I would agree, right? Things are bolded, not much is underlining, kind of weird. Sue says seems like a lot of shortcuts. Yep, I agree. Looks like they basically threw it on a piece of paper in 20 seconds. I wouldn't even look at it based on it. Less experience, okay? Very shallow, needs to go more in depth. Use assisted at least 3 times within it. Good, so that first word should be an action word, right? Change it up, right? Assisted, okay, led, contributed, increased, you know, what is it that you're doing there? Very good, these are great comments.
Awesome. So yeah, definitely would agree. These are kind of just main things that if a hiring manager were looking at, that would maybe catch their attention. But obviously, like was mentioned in the chat, a lot of this resume in general doesn't really have a lot of meat to it. It doesn't have a lot of really details or value for the hiring manager. So yeah, if we had all 3 of those resumes that we talked about, including this one, this is definitely the one that would probably be on the bottom tier because it doesn't have as much detail. It definitely lacks those action words and variety of action words, like was mentioned. There's assisted listed various times, and it'd be better to have different action words, like Tracy had mentioned. And so overall, I think we can come with the consensus. I don't think there's really too much of a need to go into the chat here, but based off of obviously the resume format as well as the content within the resume, this resume definitely would not land an interview based off of the fact that if we were applying for a marketing, sales, management, or just general business position, this resume isn't really tailored to a role like that. So that's one of the biggest things and biggest takeaways, and Tracy will talk about it here as far as a couple main takeaways from this first part, the resume portion.
Absolutely. You guys mentioned it a lot. Formatting, super, super important. So make it super easy to read. Formatting is the easiest way for someone to understand what it is. Use a clean format, bullet points. Are you taking up the space, right? Is there a ton of white space? We talked about that. Keeping it one page, and again, proofreading, proofreading, proofreading. There's so many people that send a resume and they don't realize they have a spelling mistake on it. So make sure that you're going over that resume, make their lives a lot easier. Make sure you have the appropriate contact information on there. I've gotten resumes before where all I got was a LinkedIn profile, not an email, not a phone number, could not get a hold of the person. So make sure that you're including those things. Jonathan, anything else to add?
Yep, and then in addition to the resume format, resume content, like we touched on a little bit previously, highlight your accomplishments. Resume is the perfect chance for you to brag about yourself, but obviously brag and tailor it in a way that's going to impress that person that you're going to be interviewing with, because they want to know how you're going to bring value to them. And that's one of the biggest things. And like Tracy mentioned earlier, having reverse chronology of your work experience. So start with the most recent work experience and work your way down, but include that relevant work experience. So like was mentioned earlier, if you worked as a custodian, you're looking to land a business marketing job or a sales or a management job, make sure to take away that work experience that maybe is not as applicable, or if that's the only work experience you have, try to spin it in a way to be able to be most applicable and use those action words to catch the hiring manager or recruiter's attention. So make sure to mix it up and have those strong words like demonstrated, created, managed, executed, and then quantifying results. So rather than just say, I did interviews, specify how many interviews you did in your particular job, or rather than say I managed employees, specify how many people you managed. Because employees definitely love to be able to see the big impact that you're able to make, and it's a lot easier to be able to tell that impact based off of quantifying your results. So we hope that kind of gives you a good overview of what it takes to be able to get the interview and land that interview, because obviously resumes are that first impression that most employers are going to get of you and who you are. But obviously resume is only the first part, and the resume is not going to get you the job for yourself. So this next section we're going to go into and deep dive here for the majority of this workshop today is the interview portion. And I'll pass that over to Tracy.
All right, thank you. So with this, Jonathan and I took a little bit moment to reenact role plays for this. So we are going to show you 3 different scenarios of the same question. And what I want each of you to do is think about, okay, how is this interview? We have 3 different types of interviews. Is it a bad interview? Is it an okay interview? Or is it a great interview? So that's the first thing we want each of you to type in the chat. Another thing, if you guys notice something, what makes it great? What makes it okay or what makes it bad? Please also input that in the chat. I will be showing the videos of this, and Jonathan will be manning the chat. So please make sure that you are involved, that you're contributing, because the more you're able to share your experience with others, the more people are going to get from this. So if everyone can see my screen, we're going to go ahead and play.
Thanks for having me. So super excited to be able to sit down and talk with you. Do you have your resume by chance?
Oh no, I forgot that. I did submit it when I applied for the position though.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, we'll definitely look at that and look at your work experience and everything more in detail.
Cool.
But yeah, to get things started, I'd love to know a little bit more about yourself. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, what do you want to know? Anything specific?
And yeah, anything you'd like to share.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Tracy. I'm from Oregon. Then I came out here to Utah and I went to school. I really like the outdoors, camping, hiking, hanging out with my friends. It's really fun. We like a lot of movies, and we just like hanging out and having a good time, and yeah.
All right, we love hanging out with friends, right? Okay, so in the chat, was this a bad interview, an okay interview, or a great interview? What are the thoughts there, Jonathan?
Yep, so the First few comments are the fidgeting, swiveling is distracting, bad. Sorry, Tracy, not polished, too casual. We have unprofessional language, very casual, asking, what do you want to know? Yeah, overall consensus is, yeah, bad interview and yeah, leaning back, slouching, no resume, and not being very specific and just kind of asking, oh, well, what do you want to know?
Wow, you guys have torn me apart on that one. I thought I did pretty decent, right? I was speaking coherent sentences, hopefully. No, you guys nailed it on the head, right? This was a bad example of an interview. Sadly enough, I've had these exact interviews in person. So now that you guys can see that, hopefully you're able to transition that. So now let's look at the next example. Okay, in the chat, again, is this a bad interview, an okay interview, or a great interview? Let's look at it, shall we?
Thanks so much, Tracy, for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So to get started, do you have a copy of your resume handy?
I do. Here we go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Awesome. So to get started, I would love to know just a little bit more about yourself. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Tracy. I'm from Oregon. I moved out here to Utah and went to school here at the U. Graduated with a marketing degree. So hoping to get into some type of business. So I've been applying to a lot of different things, just hoping to land a job after I graduate here. And really like the outdoors. You know, I really like sports as well. So I competed on a few different teams. So yeah.
All right, again, that interview right there, what do we think? Was that a great interview, an okay interview, or a bad interview? So let me know your thoughts in the chat and Jonathan will share those.
Just okay interview, just okay. Let's see what else we have here. Yeah, mentions interest in the industry, but not interested in the job specifically.
Ooh, okay. So this person has caught what we were getting at. They said, hey, I want a job in business and I've been applying to a lot of places. Okay, have they expressed the interest in this specific company that they're applying to? Have they done their research on it? Pretty vague answers, right? So why don't we go through the third scenario? I'm sure all of you can guess which scenario this is by now, but we'll talk about it and deep dive it a little bit.
Thanks so much for coming in today and chatting with me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
Perfect. So to get started, do you have a copy of your resume?
I do, yes. Here you go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great. So to get things started, I would love to know more about yourself. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Tracy. I'm originally from just outside of Oregon, and then I moved here to Utah to go to school here. Now I'm studying marketing. Growing up, I've always been interested in sports. It's something I've always been a part of, being on the team environment. I'm an extremely competitive person, and I love being a captain of my teams and being that leader. And I'm looking for a company where I can grow and learn and believe I can do that at TTI. I've read up on your company and seen the amount of growth that you guys have with your leadership development program and all of your different products, and hope to be a part of it.
All right, so what do we think about that one? So few things. One, prepared, right? Had the resume, did some research on the company, right? Also, another thing with this, tell me about yourself. It's okay if you want to bring in personal experiences to this. It's okay if you want to talk about those things, as long as it's relevant to the job. So for example, in there I mentioned I was interested in sports, really liked those things, competitive, leader. Those are great things that companies look for. Jonathan, what else does the chat say?
Yeah, so overall, yeah, a lot better reviews on that. Great, said interviewer's name, leaned forward, engaged, related sports to professionalism, team player, leadership. Yeah, overall consensus, yeah, leaning forward, engaged. So yeah, overall, everybody's saying that, yeah, it was compared to the previous ones, it was a great interview due to the engagement, talking about how the your specific interest can relate to that job.
Fantastic, fantastic. Nailed it right on the head. So there's a lot of great things. Notice I was leaning forward, right? I was interested in what the person had to say. I knew his name, right? Maybe I looked him up on LinkedIn, looked at his past experience with the company, saw his career growth. These are all great things that you should be doing prior to the interview. The interviewer definitely knows if you've done research on the company, and definitely knows if you're just BSing it and applying to all these different places. They know, and they can see through that. So make sure that when you apply to a place, you know what the position is you're applying to, what the company is, what they're about, who they're for, and that will really help you nail that interview. So the rest of these are going to be scenarios of most commonly asked questions. Again, we're going to have that bad, okay, and best scenarios here, but we're going to mix up the order. So in the chat, I want each of you to write and respond what the answer is. And then at the end of them, Jonathan will share the 2 top comments regarding each of the videos. So I'm going to share the first one.
Thanks, Tracy, so much for sharing a little bit about yourself. And within our company, we're always looking for those future leaders of our company. So can you tell me about a time that you demonstrated your leadership ability?
Yeah, absolutely. So in class, right, I'm a marketing major, and we had this class project that we had to do where we had to work with the company and just basically analyze their social media and those things. I was the leader of the group, and so it just helped everyone be on the same page and make sure that we were able to do a good job, right, and stick to our deadlines, and we ended up actually getting an A on the project.
All right, what scenario do we think that one is? Jonathan?
Let's see, everybody, if we enter into the chat. So for first one is okay. What's everybody else's thoughts on? It was fine, okay, yeah. Consensus is definitely okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's pretty much okay, right? So I mentioned, okay, I was the leader of a class project for a marketing class, right? But what did I do? We got an A, which is awesome. I shared my results. But did I talk about the process of that? I don't believe so. Let's watch the next one, see what happens.
Great, Tracy. So can you tell me about a time that you demonstrated your leadership ability?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm currently a student. So we have this project in my marketing class, and so I was on a group for this, and so we had to do different things, and obviously we wanted a good grade, right? And so I made sure to do my part, and yeah, and at the end of it, we actually got a good grade. We got an A on the project, so yeah.
Great, thanks for sharing that.
We got an A, woo! Did we get an A in that interview?
Consensus is no.
Oh, man. Well,
yeah.
Unfortunately, it looks like we failed there. Jonathan, what's some of the comments on that?
Yeah, the biggest, someone mentioned the hoodie tips us off that it's a bad interview. Definitely, yeah, the dress being unprofessional, and yeah, swiveling back in the chair. There's definitely a lot of room for improvement.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know the clothes are going to give it away in all of these. Hopefully you're paying attention so you can get these answers right. There's also some other things mentioned which makes it a bad interview. So believe it or not, this is an exact interview. I've had an exact response I've gotten. There's so many students that believe just saying that they were part of a project means that they're answering the question. That is not the case. Anytime that you get a question like this, you want to explain all of your steps, explains the actions that you took, and then the results of those as well. Whether you got a good grade or not is besides the point. It's more so your process behind it. Let's look at the last one.
Thanks so much, Tracy, for sharing a little bit about yourself. So one thing within our company that we look for is we look for people that are going to be able to be the potential leaders and future leaders of our company. So can you tell me about a time that you demonstrated your leadership ability?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm in a class right now at the U, and it's this marketing class where we have to pick a company and basically assist them with their social media platforms. And so I'm the leader of our group, and I make sure that everyone had a different task delegated to them, making sure that each person was responsible for their section of the project, making sure that we were meeting certain deadlines and criteria with that. Actually, the results of this project was pretty exciting because we were able to help this company increase their social media by about 20%. I know that TTI, you guys have a social media that you run. I've been watching it, and it's been growing pretty rapidly as well. And I know that there's other marketing positions that are open in the future, and I'm really excited about those possibilities.
All right, what are the thoughts, right? Jonathan, what does the chat say? Oh, looks like Jonathan may be frozen. So, oh, Jonathan, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
All right, sounds good. What does the chat say regarding that last video?
Great interview. Seems confident and in responses, in-depth answer, dressed well. Great interview. Circled back to the position. Stated, yeah, how they're experienced and how it related back to the company. So yeah, overall, great interview.
Awesome, very cool. A couple things to note with that. Yes, we know from the past two interviews that this person got an A on that project, right? But does the company care that they got an A on the project, or do they care about the results and the things that they learned during the project, right? Being able to talk about that to the company and how that relates with the company is going to set you up for success and set you apart as a candidate as well. So we're going to switch gears now. We're going to go into a new style of question. Let's figure out what this person has to say, shall we?
Tracy, if we were to ask some of your past employers or some of your peers, what are two of Tracy's biggest strengths? What would they say?
Yeah, two of my biggest strengths. Hardworking, definitely. I'm a hard worker. That's something that my dad taught me. And I really like talking to people. And my friends, I really like interacting. So yeah, talking to people.
Great.
Great, I'm a hard worker and I like talking to people. Am I gonna get that job? What does the chat say? Oh, looks like Jonathan is again frozen. Jonathan, can you hear me?
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect. What does the chat say about that one?
Rejected, no.
Oh,
Probably not. Bare minimum, isn't special.
yeah, absolutely. Bare minimum. There's a lot of questions where interviewers ask for certain characteristics and certain traits. They're looking to you to expand on each of these. Again, I'm telling you, candidates, when they hear that, they're like, oh, I just need to list my qualities. Okay, hardworking and I talk to people, right? Those should get me a job. Anyone can say that, right? How do you stand apart in those? So let's learn a little bit more, shall we?
Tracy, thanks so much for sharing that time that you demonstrate that leadership ability. One additional thing that we look for in our company is people that have exceptional talent and strengths. So if we were to ask your previous employers or your peers, what are two strengths that Tracy has, what would they say?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, I'm extremely hardworking. On my job, if my manager gives me something to do, I make sure to do that task effectively, time management wise. And then also, once I'm done with that task or project, I look for additional opportunities to do something else as well. For example, there's an opportunity to improve our social media platform. And so instead of waiting around for someone to say, hey, can you work on this project? I decide to take that initiative and just jump on it. Another thing is that I have great interpersonal skills. So talking to people, interacting with those, building relationships is something that I'm really good at. I have past experience in a sales job where I had to build those relationships and strengthen them. And I really believe that both of those skills combined is something that you're looking for in a candidate at TTI. And we're going to be talking to people, selling them at times. And obviously a hard work ethic is going to go a long way.
Absolutely. So strengths there, hardworking, right? Instead of talking to people, it turned into interpersonal skills, right? So different use of jargon there, maybe the same way to communicate the same thing, but in a more professional manner, right? Jonathan, are there any comments in the chat?
Not yet. What are relating skills with company requirements? Absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely. Talking about how relevant it is. So when we have these questions, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? What the company wants to know is, are you a good fit for their position, right? And do you know what your strengths are, and are you aware of what your weaknesses are? So understanding how this relates to the position is going to be something that's going to set you apart, is going to set you up for success. So let's watch the last one right now and see what they say.
Now we've talked a little bit about leadership. We're always looking for those people who have incredible talents, incredible strengths. So if we were to ask your previous employers or your peers, what are two strengths that Tracy has? What would they say?
Yeah, I've been told by my dad that I'm really hardworking. He is someone that I looked up to, and he taught me how to have a good work ethic pretty young. So that's definitely something I would say. And then for my other one, I'd probably say I'm sociable. I can talk to people. I have a lot of friends, and I'm not afraid of having conversations with people. So yeah.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing. Those are great examples of strengths.
All right, at this point, I hope it's getting obvious to you what a bad example is, what an okay example is, and what a great example it is. This is so hard to do in the moment of the interview. That's why practice and prep beforehand is what's really going to help you. Not going to turn to the chat this time. We already saw the worst and we already saw the best with that. So that must be the okay example, right? They stated those things. They talked a little bit about it, didn't give a story, didn't give anything. Talked a little bit more than the bad example, which just stated those qualities, right? But again, we're looking for more detail. Let's turn it on the flip side and let's see what the reverse question looks like.
Great, Tracy. Thanks so much for sharing those strengths that you have. And as much as we hate to admit it, we all have those areas of opportunity that we can grow and improve. And so if we were to ask those same previous employers or those same peers, what are two areas of opportunity that Tracy has, or what are two weaknesses that she has? What would they say?
Absolutely. I would say that time management and organization are two of my biggest areas of opportunity. It's also something that I'm conscious of and that I'm working on. For example, if there's a project, I'm extremely detail oriented and I want to make sure that the outcome of that project turns out right or the way I want it to. Because of that, I have a tendency to take longer on that. So I make sure to set deadlines, make to-do lists, and make sure that I'm very organized and stay on top of those areas because I know it's something that I struggle with. And so I have different tools and resources I do to kind of combat that.
Absolutely. So tell me, what are your thoughts? What did you like about that interview? Maybe what did you not like? Jonathan, what do they say in the chat?
Yep, the first response gave a specific example of how she combats the weakness, and cannot agree more. That is one of the most important things when talking about your weaknesses and opportunities, is obviously acknowledging that you have those, because everyone does. And that's actually a good thing that you're self-aware of your weaknesses and areas of opportunity, but then also giving a specific example of how you're working on combating that weakness. So yeah, great thought.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Creating
So you're aware of
strategies to
what it
excel
is.
is another.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. You're aware of what it is and you have a solution for it as well. You know how to overcome it and you're being open with that. Employers don't care if you have a weakness. They really care about if you're aware of that and if you're trying to overcome that. So absolutely, that's a great one. Let's look at the next video and see what it looks like.
Thanks so much, Tracy, for sharing those strengths. And as much as we hate to admit it, we all have areas of opportunity to grow and improve. So if we were to ask those same previous employers, those same peers, what are 2 areas of opportunity that Tracy has? What are 2 weaknesses that she has? What would they say?
Yeah, I'm a perfectionist, so I'd definitely say that that's one of my biggest weaknesses. Different projects, different tasks, clean my room, whatever it is, you know, I'm very particular about how things are and how they're situated and making sure that all of them are in its place and whatnot. As far as the other one, I would say organization is another one of my opportunities. You know, at times I can be scatterbrained with all the different things, class, work, social life, balancing all those. It requires a lot of organization and time management, right? And so I know that that's something that is a weakness of mine.
Absolutely. I seemed a little scatterbrained when I was answering that question. So, question for the chat. What did you notice that the first version had that the second version did not have? Jonathan, you want to share those answers in the chat?
Yep, I'll read them as they come in. So yeah, feel free to. Not prepared enough. What are some other thoughts people have as far as, yeah, specific examples? And the answer itself wasn't organized. The second one was hard to follow. So yeah, definitely organization. And maybe someone's typing it right now as we speak. But yeah, one of the biggest things too is, and Diane actually just mentioned right now, both acknowledge the problem, but only one had a plan to improve, area of opportunity versus the weakness statement at the beginning. So yeah, definitely you want to acknowledge the weakness or the area of opportunity that you have, but then you always want to make sure that you include how you're combating and working on improving that area where you're maybe not as strong.
Absolutely. Couldn't say it by myself. Let's look at the last example of this and let's talk a little bit more about what specific examples they're using for the weakness, shall we? Meaning the words themselves, maybe not the examples.
Great, thank you so much, Tracy, for sharing those strengths. If we were to ask those same previous employers or those same peers, what are 2 areas of opportunity for Tracy, or what are 2 areas for weaknesses? What would they say?
Yeah, I mean, I would consider myself a perfectionist. I want everything to be perfect. And then I would say also you work on organization.
All right, looks like I stuttered a little bit there at the end. Maybe I was unsure of myself, but what do you notice about the actual weaknesses that we mentioned in this? Does anyone remember what the best example we had is for the weaknesses? Organization was one of them. What was the other one? Jonathan, does anyone have the answer in the chat?
Time management. Someone else said perfectionist.
Nailed it, nailed it. Those were the 2 differences. One of employers' biggest pet peeves is when people answer, I'm a perfectionist, to that weakness question. That's a cop-out. It's something that people say to look better than they actually are. If you feel like perfectionism is your actual weakness, take a look into what it is about that is making you a weakness, right? So do you have a project, and because you want everything to be perfect, that you're taking a little bit longer, hence time management? Are you wanting everything to be done a certain way so you're not very good as a team player, and that's why you're a perfectionist? Really be introspective and take a look at yourself and figure out what exactly you're talking about instead of using the word perfectionist. Let's go on to the next question.
Great, Tracy. Thanks so much for sharing those strengths and weaknesses or areas of opportunity with us. And regardless of what setting we're in, whether we're in school or in the workplace or just in life in general, we're constantly faced with challenges. So can you tell me about a time that you faced a challenge and how you dealt with it?
Yeah. So at my current job, there's this coworker I have, and they're kind of hard to get along with. And so basically, I've just talked to the person, befriended them, making sure that they feel good at work, right? It's not fun to have a coworker who feels like it's a drag there. So basically just reached out to them, made sure that they felt included. Also, worked on different tasks or projects with them, making sure that they understood everything and that they were good to go. And so we're friends now, and it's actually, a lot better.
Absolutely, it's a lot better. We're friends now. I had a difficult coworker. What are your thoughts? How was that example?
Too much fluff in their answer.
Ooh, a lot of fluff, huh? Yeah, this happens a lot. A lot of people make it seem happy, rosy. There's a lot of rainbows, sunshine to it. It's super exciting, obviously, if we're able to have a coworker who was difficult, and now we're able to have a better work environment. But give us a little bit more detail. Don't paint a rose-colored picture. Really talk about that with us. Let's look at the next example.
So Tracy, as far as just in different settings that we're in, whether it's the workplace, the school, in life in general, we're constantly faced with challenges. So can you tell me about a challenge that you faced and how you dealt with it?
Yeah. Challenge I faced. Let me think about that. Yeah, I was working at my current job, and there was an employee there that was hard to get along with, and just made it kind of hard. So I talked to them, and we had some good conversations, and we became friends, actually. So we actually hang out outside of work.
Great, thanks for sharing that. It's great that you made some friends out of those difficult situations.
Yeah, Jonathan felt a little awkward at the end of that answer, I'm sure. So when we're looking at that, first thing I want to make notice of, was I prepared for that question? Did I come prepared for an answer, or did I have to sit and think about it? It's okay if you have to take time to think about an answer. What's not good is if you don't seem prepared, right? So those questions are typically the curveballs. I would say about half of the interviews I have, this question stumps people all the time, where they're like, oh, a difficult situation. Oh, what am I going to say? They're not prepared for it. So make sure that you're prepared for those harder questions. That may be a difficult time you had to work with someone, difficult coworker, difficult situation, a difficult decision. Any of those questions will come up in an interview. Let's look at the next one.
One of the final questions I have for you is, regardless of what setting we're in, whether it's in school or the workplace or just life in general, we're going to face challenges. So can you tell me about a time you faced a challenge and how you dealt with it?
Yeah, absolutely. At my current job, actually, there's a coworker there that's a little difficult to get along with at times. And basically what I've done is I've connected with this individual, and I've really just made sure to take him under my wing and make sure that I'm helping him and assisting him with the different projects and tasks. I really found out that it was just due to a lack of understanding, and being able to connect with him, understand what really motivates him and what energizes him, has actually been able to create an effective workplace. And so it's a good environment to work with as opposed to what it was before. I know that in TTI you're working as a team, and one of the paths is management, and being able to do that for a team and build that culture is part of what you would have to do. And I believe that's something I could do.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So that is the last thing, right? So talking to them, okay, I show my process of how I turn that into a positive conversation instead of a negative one, right? I got to know this individual, got to empathize with them, and really found the root of the problem, right? Instead of talking about all these things about friendship, all that fluff that we were talking about earlier, right? We really found out, okay, what did we do in this situation that made a positive impact, and why we made a positive impact on this individual. So all great things, right? I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan, and he's going to sum up what we've talked about.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracy. So we hope that this workshop has been beneficial not only for resume skills, but obviously for the interview skills as well. So regardless of where you are currently in your schooling, we hope that you can apply at least some of these pointers and tips and tricks as you're going out into the workforce, whether it's to land that summer internship, or maybe if you're an underclassman and you're not specifically looking at an internship right now, you're just wanting some good, valuable work experience. We definitely hope that this workshop today has been beneficial. And so in summary, we want to kind of show you the overview of everything we've talked about. So characteristics for a bad interview, okay interview, great interview. Obviously, we're not going to focus too much on that bad or the okay. The biggest area for people to improve is generally in that okay to great category. And we want each and every one of you to be able to take those okay interview skills and move them to the great category. So in summary, make sure when you are going for that interview, arrive early, dress business casual, business professional, dress to the part, and even then dress a little bit nicer than that typical role that you're interviewing for. Bring a copy of that resume, do research and prep so you can show the person that you're interviewing with that you know about the company, know about the position, and be able to have detailed responses that have that acronym of PAR, where you talk about the problem you faced, the action that you took, and the results because of it. That's one huge thing, is we want to know not only just the problems that you've had in your past work experience, we want to know what action you took and what resulted because of that. And then overall, as you're finishing up the interview, make sure at the very end, when the interviewer asks what questions you have, make sure you have good thought out questions that really show that you want to excel in that role and that you're interested in the company. Because the worst thing possible at the end of the interview, when they ask, oh, what questions do you have? And you're just like, oh, I don't have any questions. It just goes to show the interviewer that A, you may not be that interested, or that you didn't properly think beforehand of questions about the role or about how you can bring value to them and benefit their company. So in conclusion, if you either want to learn more or about interviews, about resumes, and maybe even have one of us look over your resumes, or just general questions you may have, feel free to reach out to me personally. My contact info is there. Connect with me on LinkedIn. But if you're even interested in learning more about TTI, what job opportunities you have, like Diana was saying, TTI is an incredible company that's growing at an amazing rate right now. And we are looking for those future leaders, whether you have those interests in marketing and sales and management or HR operations, or even if you have a more specialty interest in the business field and you're wanting to know how TTI can help you excel in your career path, feel free to reach out to us, because we are more than happy to give our thoughts and share our experiences with you, and how TTI could be a potentially good fit for an internship or a full-time position once you graduate.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Tracy. We appreciate it. It's terrific to hear directly from employers who are actually conducting these interviews, to hear their feedback, to hear their experiences, and share them with the rest of us on both interviews and resumes. So we hope that we'll be sending you lots of wonderful candidates who are well prepared, and we'll be able to connect with you about your opportunities. Thanks so much for being here today. And students, I hope you'll take them up on that offer. Jot down Jonathan's contact info or reach out to him on LinkedIn. and take advantage of more input. You can always get more input, more valuable feedback is a great help. So thanks for being here, students.